Hello, scholars. Let's review question 2 from your quiz. You've been asked to graph a system of inequalities. Remember, that means we're going to graph the two inequalities and look for the place where the shadings overlap. So each one of those inequalities gives us a boundary line, and then we have to make a decision to shade above or below that line. So I'm going to have two half planes shaded in, which means they're going to overlap probably in 1/4 of the plane, unless something non-standard happens. But watch this. To graph, we're going to first pretend for a second that this is in slope-intercept form. Y equals -2/3 x plus 5. So the y-intercept is 5. Remember, that's a place on the y-axis where my line is going to cross. And my slope is rise over run, -2/3. So I'm going to start at the y-intercept, which is up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from there, I'm going to use the slope, rise over run. So for me, that means I'm going to fall down 2 and run right 3. I had probably a third of the class made their line go uphill. But this is really important. If my slope is negative, then the line has to go downhill as I read from left to right. So from there, I'm going to go down 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. Again, down 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. I could have gone up 2 and backward 3. I'm going to take those dots now and I'm going to connect them. I'm going to use a dotted line because I have no or equal to under my less than sign. These are connected with a... So number one, option 1 was the easier option because those two inequalities are already in sort of slope-intercept form. Because that's going to help me when I make my next decision, which is I'm going to have to notice that I have y is less than. I'm going to shade underneath this boundary line. Can I strongly suggest, especially if you're having any confusion or you're getting any of your work marked wrong, start your pen or your pencil at the boundary line and make that shading go all the way. If you are shading like horizontally, even though your boundary line is not horizontal, then the shading doesn't help you notice where the overlap is yet later. I'm going to try doing this in yellow, and I'm going to have where yellow and blue overlap is going to turn green. So y is greater than 2x plus 1. The y-intercept is 1, and the slope is 2, which is not a fraction, so I'm going to think of that as 2 over 1. I'm going to start at the y-intercept, which is 2. I'm going to up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, 2 over 1, or down 2 backward 1. Again, I have no or equal to underneath my greater than sign, so I'm going to connect these with a dotted line. Try to make your lines and your shading go all the way to the edges of the graph. This is y is greater than 2x plus 1, so I'm going to shade above the boundary line. Notice I'm starting my marker right on the boundary line and I'm shading up. So now when I go back to figure out where does the shading overlap, which sections of my graph got colored in both yellow and blue, and sort of this never eat sour water, so like western quarter of the graph. It is my expectation that you'll figure out at the end where the shading overlaps and be sure to show me really clearly where that shading overlaps. Final answer. All right, for option 2, y is greater than or equal to 4. I'm going to pretend for a second I have the equation y equals 4. That's the graph of a horizontal line, so I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces and make a horizontal line with y-intercept 4. This time I do have an or equal to sign under my inequality sign, so I'm going to make a solid line. That says y is greater than or equal to 4. I'm going to shade above that line. Now there are other ways to graph a line, but I think we kind of have the habit. It's maybe easiest to think about graphing a line only after it's in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take that second inequality, change the slope-intercept form. Y is greater than -2x plus 3. I'm going to switch to my second color. That tells me the y-intercept is 3 and the slope is -2 over 1. So I'm going to start at 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go down 2 spaces over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2, over 1. Notice I could have gone upward, up 2 and backward 1, 2 and backward 1. This time no or equal to, so I'm going to make a dotted line. And this is a greater than. Make sure you check the place where you isolated the Y. That's a greater than. I'm going to shade above. I'm going to start my marker on the boundary line, and so I'm going to shade above the boundary line. Now when I go to look and see where the shading overlaps, that's everything above the blue horizontal line, Y equals 4, and also above my yellow boundary line. Final answer.